A lot of people think that motivation is just the quality of being really excited or hyped up about something, but there really is much more to it than that. For instance, you may have competing motives that may be physiological, psychological, or social, as well as other cognitions, emotions, and external events that influence how you behave and what tasks you act on. As a simple example of how motivation operates, suppose you feel the need to pee. We could say then that you are motivated to act on that need, and therefore you eventually relieve yourself. It should also be noted that you can choose not to act on that need. In this example, you might choose to hold it in because you have a competing motive to wait until you actually get home because using public facilities makes you nervous. As a coach, if you have trouble getting an athlete to perform a task, it is less correct to say that they are unmotivated to do it, and more correct to say that they are motivated to do something else, such as to rest, or talk to their friends, or to take control of the situation through refusal instead of compliance. The child or athlete needs to understand and buy into the goal of the task the same way that you are probably unlikely to do something just because someone asks, or in the case of authoritarian coaching, tells you to. Some athletes have high achievement needs, while others do not. Achievement motivation directs us towards success and in some cases, hopefully, personal growth. But it's important to understand that not everyone has a desire to achieve the same goal. Especially when it comes to kids, they don't necessarily value achievement the same way that their parents or coaches do. And this is important to remember. In this situation, it is important to leverage and nurture their other motivational resources, especially their needs for attachment and belonging, as well as their autonomy. Let's take a look at some strategies that do not work for athlete buy-in. Incentives are a form of external regulation and are similar but opposite to how punishment functions. Incentives can promote compliance, but they don't develop athlete buy-in or personal growth. Essentially, it shifts the athlete's focus from performing the task to completing the task. In a now classic study by Lepper and colleagues, they observed that a group of school children who expected rewards for being on task were actually less likely to stay on task after the incentive was removed, compared to before the incentives were introduced. Punishment is commonly used by coaches as a response to off-task behavior, and though it may seem effective for achieving short-term compliance, it does so by stopping unwanted behaviors rather than promoting desired behaviors. Athletes thrive on structure, direction, and leadership. But remember that punishment is a negative expression that signals disapproval, and it is used to control a person's behavior. And that is exactly how it feels to be punished or to receive threats of consequences. In the case of corporal punishment, it carries with it a number of documented long-term consequences, such as aggression, antisocial behavior, poor mental health and relationship quality, and physical abuse. When exercise is used to punish an athlete by causing them pain or discomfort, it fits the definition of corporal punishment. Praise can be positive feed-forward or feedback to an athlete and can be directed at their ability, like saying, "You can do it," or "You did so well." Or it can be directed to their effort, like saying, "You really pushed yourself." So while not a bad thing to do, focusing on praising athletes in order to bolster their self-esteem with the assumption that it will A, get them to participate, or B, improve their performance, is actually an incorrect theory. There is practically no solid evidence to support that boosting self-esteem boosts performance. And this is mainly due to self-esteem not being a causal variable, but rather an effect. When life is going well, self-esteem is high. Paradoxically, athletes with high self-esteem may actually be more likely to engage in risk-taking, and as such, off-task behavior. Now let's finally take a look at some strategies that do work. When you set a goal, you create a disconnect between where you are and where you want to be. This creates psychological discomfort and provides the motivational force required to reduce that discrepancy through planned behaviors. You can think of setting and achieving goals as working something like a thermostat. When you feel a disconnect, your thermostat turns up the motivation to act on it. When that disconnect is resolved, your thermostat turns down the motivation to act. Your behaviors can be regulated by internal or external motives. Intrinsic motivation is the most internalized of those motives. When you're intrinsically motivated, the behavior or task is enough for you. When you are extrinsically motivated, the behavior is simply a means to an end. This ultimately comes back to your goals as an athlete or coach. As a coach, is your athlete showing up, and are they putting in enough effort? If not, and there's a more demanding goal at stake, is the athlete fully aware and bought into that goal? And have you helped your athlete identify what achieving that goal means to them? Which is to say, how have you helped your athlete internalize that goal? Well, why is that important? Intrinsic goals produce high effort and enthusiasm and make goal achievement far more likely than extrinsic goals. Goal achievement then produces need satisfaction, which enhances the athlete's well-being and cultivates a successful athlete career. This leads us to psychological need satisfaction, a pillar of self-determination theory and the key to cultivating intrinsic motivation in athletes. There are 3 needs. Need number 1, autonomy. The easiest way to support an athlete's autonomy is to invite their input on the task at hand. Need number 2, competence. Competence is developed through the introduction of reasonable challenges that are matched to the athlete's ability. Competent athletes seek out challenges and have a desire to grow, but be wary of introducing challenges or tasks that are too easy or too challenging. Related theories on athlete competence include flow, as popularized by psychologist Mikhail Csikszentmihalyi, and is represented as a relationship between the athlete's skill level and the level of challenge that they must endure, where they experience a state of concentration, absorption, and deep involvement in an activity. Additionally, classic research from Yerkes and Dodson observed that the best performance occurs at a moderate level of arousal or state anxiety. Lastly, Bandura's theory of self-efficacy reinforces Deci and Ryan's theory that a person needs to feel competent in their environment before they feel motivated to act. Simply put, if an athlete thinks they can, then they will, or are at least more likely to perform a task. They are also more likely to strive for excellence. The final need, belonging, also referred to as the need for relatedness or affiliation. This need is characterized by a positive emotional connection with others. As such, making friends or seeking social approval is not quite enough to nurture this need. There needs to be a reciprocity of caring in a close, enduring relationship. I am certain most coaches can relate to the challenges of trying to motivate athletes who have had a recent breakup. So to summarize, motivation is a hypothetical construct that can describe how athletes behave, what competing motives they perceive, and to what degree their motivation is internally or externally regulated. Also, rewards are okay for short-term compliance, but they work best if they are unexpected and performance-based rather than expected and dependent on task completion. And most importantly, remember that once they are removed, the athlete will be even less likely to stay on task compared to not having rewarded them in the first place. Punishment can also achieve short-term compliance, but it undermines the coach-athlete relationship and can have negative long-term consequences. Give your athletes praise to show them you care about them, not because you want more effort. Goals need to be personalized, specific, and reasonably challenging to produce both effort and positive outcomes. You can't directly coach an athlete to be intrinsically motivated. Their enjoyment of what they're doing is an internal process. However, you can help your athletes gradually internalize externally regulated goals by nurturing their psychological needs. I hope this video has helped you understand the theory of motivation better, and with any luck, you can use it effectively in your daily coaching practice.